If you want to write a book and become a best-selling author, you're in the right place. At Elite Online Publishing, we can help you create, publish, and market your book so that it becomes a #1 bestseller. We work with a limited number of authors to ensure that they receive the best possible service. So if you want to learn how to write and publish a book that will empower you to smartly grow your brand, business, and credibility, apply today. We look forward to working with you.
Hey everyone, it's Melanie Johnson. All right, I don't know about you, but Amazon ads have been a complete mystery to me. I've tried them, I've done them. A few years ago, it seemed like I had moderate success, and then a year went by, I tried them again, and it was just like kind of crash and burn. I was spending more than I was making. I didn't understand how to do the keywords and all of that stuff, and I just threw up my hands. I'm like, I don't want to deal with it anymore. And it's hard to find really great experts that know how to do this. So today we have Alex Strathdee, and he is an expert. He has done thousands of books. I'm going to say thousands of books and hundreds of thousands of dollars that he runs in ad campaigns. So he knows how to make it work. Thanks for coming today, Alex.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
Well, tell us, how did you get started in this space?
Yeah, I like to say never trust me doesn't walk with a limp. And so I started off as that author who was trying to figure out how to market their books. And obviously in the world's largest bookstore, you want to know how to use their marketing tool, which is Amazon ads. And so really it was just figuring it out from myself, and then having a couple other authors take note and say, well, you're doing it so well for your book. Can you kind of take a look at my book and work on that? And it just grew from there.
Wow. Well, walk us through, what should we know about Amazon ads? Like if I'm starting out, what are the first things that I should do?
Yeah, how much time you got?
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, the first thing that you need to do is, just know your book. And then, like, people hire me because they don't have the time to put in themselves. But the best person who is always going to be able to do your ads is you. I always advocate for that, just because you're going to know the slight nuances of your book. You're going to know exactly your, target demographic. We can come in and obviously try to work with you to get those things right. But at the end of the day, you're going to be able to look at a keyword and say, this is right or this is wrong. So some people preach that you need to go super wide. This is a strategy. And there's also strategies that work for every single book. So one strategy doesn't necessarily work for every single book. It is a very tailored, unique experience, which hopefully we can, dive into some of the question marks around there today, because it's, that is, I think, a root cause of some of the frustrations. But the main thing is just really knowing what are the other books in your niche that are selling really well, the other books that are very relevant to yours. You can ask yourself, what books do my readers of my book read? And so that is where you should start with your questioning of figuring out, that's going to answer your question for everything of what you should be targeting, the products and the keywords you can be going after.
All right. So you've really got to figure out the keywords, kind of hack other books that are in the same genre to see what keywords you think they're using. Are there any tools that we can do to figure that out besides just going to Amazon and clicking? Because you can't really tell the keywords if you're not seeing the back end of someone else's book.
Sure. And there's a lot of tools out there. We use Publisher Rocket. We don't use it in the traditional way that other people use it. Basically, our goal is not just to find keywords that are being searched for, but keywords that actually have high traffic volume, because there's no point in advertising on someone's book if it's not, if it doesn't have a ranking of below 100,000 for the Kindle, right? Mm-hmm. It means it's not selling, it's not actually getting viewed. But honestly, there's so many tools out there, but the best possible way is actually just to use Amazon to find your targeting. It's what my team does off the bat with every single book. It's a very manual process, because that's how we're going to get, if you use the tools that everyone else is using, you're not going to get unique results. And so we go on to one of my favorite, ways to do this is you just go on to who's advertising for your book. This isn't always going to be a lot of those aren't going to be relevant. So you always need to run everything through a personal relevancy filter. But there's some other great places on your product page. You're going to see people who bought your book also bought. Those are ASINs you should absolutely be targeting, right? And then you can go into those books. You can see, well, what are buyers of those books buying? And you can build out your list simply from just looking at what is the behavior patterns of consumers on Amazon already.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great way. All right. So let's say you get the keywords in and you get the back end done. How do you increase the click rate and the conversion rate?
Yeah. And this is a huge part of it, because if you can spend $5 on, 30 clicks as opposed to $5, or let me rephrase this another way. If you can get a reader in 15 clicks as opposed to getting a reader in 30 clicks, you're going to be able to spend so much more money on your advertising. So and there's a couple different things that come into play here, right? There's the marketing rule of 7, which, someone needs to have seen your title and your book at least 7 times before they buy from you. So there's things to keep in mind out of the gates. If you aren't doing a lot of marketing elsewhere and people haven't seen your book, you're going to have a low conversion rate, right? Like people aren't ready to buy your book yet. Amazon advertising does take some time. If you're doing things like Facebook ads, if you're doing things like getting on podcasts, right? These are all other ways you can be showing up in front of people. But the marketing rule of 7 is just a great, and one of my biggest Amazon ads inspirations, I have to give him credit because I've learned so much from him, is Robert Ryan. He's kind of this mystery man on Amazon, but he has this book, Amazon Ads Unleashed. And it is where I send all my authors who I can't work with, I say, hey, you should absolutely take a look at this book because it goes through a lot of these principles. People think that it's just a click machine, but it plays into traditional marketing, as well. So when it comes to your click-through rate being high, that really comes down to, 4 things. It comes down to the amount of reviews you have. We recommend all of our authors have at least 100 reviews. It comes down to a good title. That is, I think that would probably be more so your expertise here instead of mine, Melanie, but the title and then a really good cover, right? I'm sure both of us could kind of riff about covers, making a good one. Cause that's essentially why someone's going to click on the ad. Is a big portion of it is just, is this look trendy? And then 150 characters of text. That's all Amazon gives you to customize your ads. Some people don't even put it in there. They don't think it's worth the time. If it's real estate that Amazon gives you, we think that it's obviously a good call, but those are the 4 things that play into your click-through rate, right? It's the same way with someone walks into Barnes and Noble. It's like your click-through rate is basically them on their end. It's someone picking up a book in their store. Why is someone going to pick up a book? It's because of, the title and the cover. Essentially we have reviews on Amazon, which is helpful too. But from there, the conversion rate is all about the product description page. That is not my expertise either. I always send people to someone named Brian Meeks, who he did my book description, and my book description for my ads converts at 1 in every 5. For every 5 clicks, I get 1 reader. And the average conversion rate is about 1 in 15. So for every 15 clicks, you'll get 1 reader. I oftentimes recommend that, if you're getting, 30, especially, out of the gates, it's going to be a little bit lower, but over time, if you're still getting, like 1 in 20 clicks, you probably want to take a look at your book description page, because that is your conversion rate, and add things in like, the reviews from, the people in your book you've mentioned. If you've, Mark Cuban, who wrote, the foreword to your book or something, you obviously want to include that on your description. Those are important things to include. So, and then a good metric standard for the CTR, your click-through rate, is 0.36 is the Amazon average. And we'll talk about, that's a very important part that you're going to want to get right for your ads. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And it gave me a couple more questions, okay, within the answer. So you said that, that's rule of 7. Do you have to have your ads? Do you have to promote your book other places besides Amazon for it to work? Or can you just do Amazon by itself?
I think that it depends how serious you are about your book, right? I mean, if your book truly is, a lifelong legacy, or it really is a cornerstone to your business, then, you do need to be serious about your book marketing. It's the same with, and I don't say this, looking down on anyone. I say this because I'm guilty of it, where I, wrote this book back when I graduated, and, for the first few months after publishing, we had our big launch. We paid a consultant to get us on the Amazon bestsellers list. And then we expected that. I was like, oh, great, we could retire. This is it. We figured it out. And that just doesn't happen. Your book just doesn't sell itself. And so yes, Amazon ads is a portion of marketing your book. We do have authors where that's all they do, but they also have done really well with just picking a niche that is very green on Amazon, right? And you can use tools like Publisher Rocket to figure out, is there, more demand or is there more supply in a certain, book niche. But, the authors who have, gotten everything right, they've picked a great niche, they've got a great title, they've got a great cover. Yeah, they can do Amazon ads, and that's all they need to do. We have some authors that sell 200-300 copies a week just from that, right? But, on top of that, if you are, especially in the business space, it is such a saturated market I know this because a lot of our authors are business authors, on Amazon, it is a very saturated space. And so you really do have to be doing other things as well if you want your book to sell well on Amazon.
All right. So the next question is, you mentioned about having reviews, how important that is. We used to say, you got to have at least 50 because then that changes the algorithms of Amazon. And you're like, no, you got to have 100. So let me ask you this. Can I start to advertise my book before I have 100 reviews, or do I need to wait, get those reviews first, and then start the advertising campaign?
You can absolutely get them started out of the gate. You can get them started with as low as, 5 reviews. It all comes back to, again, how competitive is your niche, that you decided to write or you chose to write in, or that your book exists in, right? If it's not very competitive, then you don't, that's not, you will get that organically just from the sales of your book, right? That will build up. But, there are, if you are in a much more saturated niche, then you're going to need a lot more reviews to actually stand out.
Yeah. Okay. Then you were talking about, I kind of got to go back to your answer. You were saying getting more involved in the details of how to do the ads, like, so go through that.
Just in terms of like, how do you actually set up ads or run them successfully?
Yeah, let's do how to run them successfully and kind of set them up. Just give us like the tutorial if you were going to walk someone through that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the approach is going to be different depending on how, the market that your book is relevant for, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say you have a book that is about meditation. Melanie, I don't know about you, but I could probably use a little more meditation in my life. That is something that's relevant to a much larger audience, as opposed to if you have a book about, motorcycle maintenance, you're not going to be able to sell that to everyone. And so both of those books is going to take a slightly different approach. One thing that I can absolutely always say is going to pay off is trying to work towards a high CTR as much as possible, a high click-through rate with your ads. Even in different books are going to, basically the more relevant a book is, the higher the CTR is going to be out of the gates. But that doesn't mean that if you have that motorcycle book, you can't also build up that high click-through rate. You just really need to be focused on going after, your set of keywords, your products that are very similar to yours. Going back to that standard of, anything for us that really doesn't convert multiple times and has a click-through rate of lower than 0.36, we shut that off. Oftentimes people will get caught up in a click-through rate of 0.17 that sold a copy of their book, and they'll try and pour a ton of money into that. And let's say, you end up with 100 clicks, but one sale, and they're like, well, this is my keyword. No, you need to turn that off and go find other keywords. That's something that's not going to work for you. Ways to keep it simple for those that are just getting into Amazon ads. There's a lot of features that Amazon will throw at you that, and we even, I'd call us advanced. Oh, obviously our name is advancedamazonads.com, right? So we're advanced Amazon ads users. We still only stick with fixed bidding because, there's these other features where authors get so hung up on, whether it's the type of bidding you're doing or whether it's bid placement, extra 40% for top of search page placement, right? These little things are not what you should be focusing on, especially out of the gates. What you need to be focusing on is finding products and keywords that are similar to yours, similar to your book. That is the number one thing, is just building up your relevance and then making sure to trim, we are in all of our clients' accounts, within every 48 hours, turning off keywords that hit 1,000, if it hits 1,000 impressions and it has a CTR that is below 0.36 and it's not converted multiple times, we turn it off. That's sort of our simple algorithm. Obviously there's a bit more to it, but like I said, if you're that author who's starting out, just focus on, 150 characters of text, find 500 customer search terms that people are searching for that are relevant to your book, and then find 200 ASINs, 200 ISBNs, and stop there. If you just set up auto campaigns out of the gate, again, unless you've hit a holy grail of having the right book at the right time on Amazon, that auto campaign is not going to do anything for you besides spend money. It's not going to build up your click-through rate as well, because you're basically handing the keys over to Amazon when Amazon doesn't know anything about your book. You have to teach Amazon about your book, and auto campaigns can be very fruitful. We have a lot of our authors who have 80% of their sales happen because of their auto campaigns. But they're a year on from advertising. Amazon knows exactly what their book is about. Amazon is not going to know what your book is about out of the gate. So don't go for the auto campaigns first. I know that was a lot.
I know. It's like, man, you deconstructed a lot of stuff, which I love. So you're saying auto campaign only if your book has been out for a while. Like if it's been published for 3 or 4 years, then they're going to know what's going on. Whether you're selling a lot or not selling a lot, they're still going to be able to get that. Otherwise, you need to do a manual campaign, right?
And there's a little asterisk next to everything I said, because there's such nuance to every single book and every single journey. I would, unless, like I said, we have authors who have rolled off of a Wall Street Journal launch, right? And so, yeah, like over 1,000 people have bought their book on Amazon. That is enough data for Amazon to say, for us to be able to put some faith in the auto ads. Now, I say that, but if I get an email from someone saying, well, I sold 1,000 copies, but my auto campaign didn't work. Yes, it might not work for you. That's why it's all about just try everything. But these are hopefully some guidelines you can use, and hopefully some things you can save some time on. Nothing is guaranteed, which with Amazon ads, you just really have to, try, test little things here and there. If you have never sold a book on Amazon and you just put up an auto campaign, I can guarantee you like 99% confidence that auto campaign will do absolutely nothing for you. So, that's some nuance there, if that clarifies that.
Yeah, that does. And then you had mentioned, like, when you work with an author, you're checking it every 48 hours. So one of my questions was, well, how often do you need to check your ad campaign if it's working? And I was like, dang, every other day, that's pretty often. So do you suggest an author do that themselves, that they need to check and see if it's selling and converting?
It's, 80% of success in life is what? It's like just showing up, right? The other 20%, which is really how you stand out with your Amazon ads, is doing the things that no one else is doing. Now, Amazon ads reporting is also, the way that we make decisions is not based on, oh, this has spent a lot of money and I've gotten, we don't look at the spend versus sales. We look at orders. We look at spend versus orders. And, the most important thing we look at is clicks. And your click-through rate, your conversion rate, and then your cost per reader, right? Like to us, which cost per reader isn't even something that Amazon gives you data on. It's something that we just include ourselves, because a lot of our authors are authors who use their books to build their business, right? They're looking for leads. It's a lead generation tool for them. And especially if that's your path, then really it comes down to the whole thing is just figuring out. And I know it's difficult because a lot of people don't have data out of the gates. But just knowing that, if you get 20 people that come, from your book to you, and one of those turns into a lead, well, if that lead is worth, or one of those turns into a customer, and that customer is worth $10,000, well, then, divide that by how much can you pay per lead? Okay, well, then you take that, divide that by 20, and you get, if my math's not wrong here, 50, which it could very well could be wrong. This is just off the top of my head. But anyway, and then you take, that amount of money, and okay, well, how many clicks do you need to get a reader? Okay, well, now divide that by the amount of clicks. And that's the max that you should be paying for a click, right? It's all a formula, right? There doesn't need to be a guessing game, but it does come down to knowing, we have a lot of authors we work with who will sell 5 copies of their book and, spend $20 to do it. And they're like, oh, this, I failed. This is the end, this isn't going to work. But if one of those turns into a client, all of a sudden you're way ROI positive. It's just understanding, that if you are trying to, build your business with a book, you need to understand that the advertising is going to work differently for you. You're actually going to be able to usually outbid people, because the value of a reader is worth so much more to you. That's what I think I went way down.
No, I saw that, because especially the thing with Amazon, though, is they don't give you the analytics. So you have no idea who bought your book. You're just hoping one of those people turned into that. That's kind of one of the strategies that we use, but you just don't know. So you're trying to get the book in as many hands as possible because you're not sure who that person's going to refer to you or they're going to become a client. All right. So I love all the information that you gave. How much money should we set aside to run a budget? I mean, some authors are willing to put more in, but what's an average budget run? Give us here's what you can start on the small end. Here's if you're going to go all in, what you should be spending.
Sure. If you're going to be looking to place, 43-cent clicks, which right now it's next to impossible to get that just with the Christmas traffic and advertising that goes along with it. You could probably set aside a budget of $200-$300 if you're, targeting a handful of keyword, 200 or 300 keywords or something like that.
That's month, per day, or
per month. Yeah, per month. We recommend all of our authors start with a budget of $400 to $500, and that's just because we have a very aggressive approach to getting started. We want to find what's going to convert for your book very quickly. We want to find keywords that are going to have a high relevance out of the gates. And then, don't be discouraged if you've spent, let's say you have $1 per, you're, bidding $1 per click. And let's say you've had, 10 clicks, well, if your book converts at 1 in 20 clicks, well, then you're not there yet. You're not at a level of data that you can make a decision on that keyword. That's why, and it can get expensive very quickly. So that's where it just comes down to knowing exactly what you can spend per click. Every budget's going to be different depending on the book. I mean, we have some authors who spend upwards of $6,000 a month on Amazon. but they have the sales to match it, right? We scale up from that initial $400 or $500, but it really is going to depend on the book. It's going to depend, if you've got a book about, how to communicate with customers, you're probably not going to sell more than 20 or 30 copies on Amazon a month. And that's just, unless you've got some other very unique aspects to it, that's just going to be the way it is. So, it's just a matter of, well, how much of those 30 readers worth to you? Then that's how much you can afford to spend on Amazon.
I like that you kind of reverse engineered it of how many you're going to get, and you doing and so you can kind of look at what a budget could be based on their book, the topic, the category, all of that, and the keywords. That's great. All right. Now you talked about, if a campaign's not working, turn it off. Can you run multiple campaigns for the same book with different keywords at the same time?
Absolutely. In fact, we recommend it because we do product. There's a couple of different, decisions when it comes to, different types of Amazon ads. Our favorite is just going to be your, product display ads, right? And so that is where, and usually we'll have, 3 different campaigns. This is for those that are really paying attention. There'll be a little detail here, but basically we'll want to target the keywords that, people are searching for on Amazon. These are things like if your book is about, again, motorcycle maintenance. I go back to this because I just saw this title on Amazon, which made me laugh, which was like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And the book has like over 1,000 reviews. And I'm just like, wow, they really nailed that one. So that's why in my head, people are like, motorcycle maintenance. This guy I've never ridden a motorcycle in my life. But anyway, that is, so for a book like that, you are going to, I just lost my train of thought because I went riffing about the motorcycle thing. What was the question again?
Multiple campaigns with different keywords
yes,
for the same
right.
book.
That's right. So, if you have that motorcycle book, you're going to want to target, obviously the keywords motorcycle maintenance. You're going to want to target things like, various issues that motorcycles have, right? Might be getting a little bit too specific there because I don't know if, it'll be like how to replace maybe there is a book about how to replace a motorcycle engine on Amazon, right? Like, how do you do these different things? And then you want to target, so that'll be its own unique campaign. And you want to measure all those keywords in that campaign. And then you also want to have your product targeting in a separate campaign, which is where you're going to be, looking for, okay, what are other books that are selling really well that would have the same readers as my book? And, you want to be targeting those. We like to separate those out just because, a different strategy with each campaign. As far as my knowledge, you don't compete against yourself. Even if you were targeting the same keyword, Amazon has it so that, there's no crossover there. So yeah, multiple, obviously, some people advocate for every single day you should create a new campaign. No, if your campaign that's going to get very hard to manage. If your campaign is working well and you have very high relevance, that campaign should never stop working. And some people advocate. One of my really good friends in the Amazon advertising space, who has a really best-selling book or high-selling book about Amazon ads, advocates for this, and that campaigns just die over time. I don't believe it. I could be wrong, but the way that I've seen campaigns go on for years. We've got some campaigns that have been selling really well for years. And that's where it comes down to just making sure, the higher your relevance is, because when you think about, the strategy on Amazon side of things, which I think, ad revenue is poised to be one of their main sources of revenue here, very quickly, if it's not already, is that, the way that they're going to make money from this is, okay, a click, right? That's 50 cents, that's 60 cents, that's $1.03. And every time that you are, that click is happening, Amazon's making money. And so that's why they care about relevance so much, is because if you're not what the consumer wants to click on, then Amazon just missed out on the click that could have happened. And so, to be honest, I think they care way less about your book actually selling as much as they do about people just clicking on your book, because that's what keeps people on the platform. Then they click on your product page, and then they get to your product page and they see, okay, well, 5 other books have done really good advertising. They're on your book. Well, now someone's clicked on to the next ones, right? You can hope that they buy your book, but the first thing is just making sure that Amazon is showing your ad, and you do that through relevance.
I love that. All right. So what we always get trapped in, Amazon keeps changing their algorithms. They keep changing the rules in the publishing business. Every time we turn around, there's something new, which we love because they're trying to stay innovative and relevant.
Sure.
Have you seen a lot of this going on with Amazon ads? What's changed recently, and what do you foresee changing with ads?
I'll start with the first question, what has been changing, I think, again, going back to relevance. The past few months, I've seen a lot of authors who were doing some more wider targeting. Maybe they had campaigns with a click-through rate of 0.2. Their campaigns have really started to die. They just haven't worked. Well, those campaigns, those authors have a very high CTR, upwards of 0.6, 0.7, even 1%. That's one click for every 100 impressions. Those authors are the ones who are winning right now. And so I have a feeling that Amazon is moving more and more as they optimize their own algorithm to prioritize revenue. I think that because a lot of times, you don't realize this, but it's more so like when it comes to, AI or whatever, it's a buzzword, but it's not, they don't know why it's doing what it's doing. They just say optimize for ad revenue.
Yeah.
And so then, okay, well then Amazon models itself to optimize for that. Well, that could mean, less sales, but what it means is higher ad revenue because people are clicking, right? So unfortunately, you do just have to play their game. And so it is a matter of, relevance, I think, is the number one thing that's changed most recently. It's been going this way for years. The more relevant your campaigns, the better they've done. But especially recently, I think it's more important than ever. Where is Amazon Ads headed? I think there's going to be a lot more features available, like the ability to add video content. Right now, this is already rolled out with a lot of publishing houses who have the ability to do this. And so for independent authors, it's still, most people still, the only way they can customize their ads is 150 characters of text. But I think we're going to have a lot more rich media come our way with Amazon ads in the future. So I think that's how it's going to change.
I love that. And what we were finding, it's like books weren't selling unless you were doing ads. It's like, if you want Amazon to push your book and have the algorithms work for you, again, you have to have those reviews. But if you're not doing all the things that Amazon wants you to do and spending money with them, then your book's going to go below just in the regular search engine. So it's kind of like they have handcuffs on you.
That's a wonderful point. And, really what you just touched on is a whole different topic. We could, again, how much time you got? It is basically what you're trying to do. The holy grail of Amazon advertising is not actually selling books from your ads, but being able to associate your book with other products. So, if I'm a new author, we have one author who he's got a book, Drinking and Knowing Things, which is, it's a wine book. It's, it's got 52 wine reviews, 50 or 52 wine reviews in the book, right? And that book is starting to really generate sales on the back end. And, we can't necessarily say like, where did these sales come from? The ads show maybe 50% of those. And I see this with my own book as well, is oftentimes when you're running Amazon ads, you'll look at your KDP dashboard of the sales that are being reported, and they'll be double what your ads are actually reporting. And that's because what you're doing is you're tickling the algorithms to say, oh, I know that, people who bought book X bought book Y. Some ad people out there even recommend that you should advertise your competitors' books to your own readers, because that way your readers will go on and buy those books, and then Amazon will associate those books with your book. And so then they'll be advertising your book to the readers of, that other book. And so it really comes down to, association. What you're trying to do with those Amazon ads is say, well, if 10 people who bought book X bought my book, well, then Amazon will start to promote your book on book X organically. They email blast all the time that, and like I talked about earlier, down at the bottom of your product page, it'll have, here related items to your book, things like that. So yeah, you just hit on a very big point of Amazon advertising.
I know. And it's kind of aggravating because you're like, you think you got to figure it out. And then it's like, no, it's like dealing with the mafia in a way that you've got to, play by their rules and keep up with that. Otherwise you're just at the low man on the totem pole. Where do you see the future of publishing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's going to be a lot more just integrated. I think that books are going to be a lot more experiential. This isn't the space I live in. So, this is the space I live in, but I don't think all day long about, I think about ads, which I should think about much more than just the ads. But basically, I think the whole package is going to be, how can you embrace a reader in more than just the text, right? And I've seen some people do this really well. Pat Flynn, when he launched Will It Fly, at the beginning of the book, he had a complimentary course where, readers could go through and basically be walked through the book by the author, right? It was like videos, Pat Flynn saying, and chapter 1, here's kind of what I was thinking here. Here's some background. Here's some visuals to go along with it. I think you're just going to be able to, books will become a lot richer in their experience overall, whether it's, like I said, those companion courses, or even just the ability to access, a lot of extra things in that book. I think they're just becoming a lot bigger than just some text that you pick up and read.
I agree. I agree. And I love like the extra knowledge in that back end. It's almost like, when they're walking you through each chapter, it's like a singer, a famous singer telling you why he wrote this song and what was going on in his life at the time that influenced it. And people are interested in that. What the author's thought process was, what the musician or songwriter's process was when they're doing that. I think you touched on a really big thing. I'm starring that in my notes, by the way, to add that in. Alex, you gave us so much information. Thank you for your time and for your wisdom and really sharing all your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope I didn't go down too many rabbit holes. As you can see, I don't get out enough to talk. I talk about this stuff just all day long. So it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've really enjoyed myself.
Hey, all the rabbit holes were really resourceful for all of us. Thanks.
Absolutely.